Well, this afternoon we had a fine opportunity to retrieve our reputation with one of 7 nations as we were in the World Pairs Final. I say this afternoon because, in fact, it was due to be held last night in Denmark, but it was rained off and postponed to earlier this afternoon. 7 nations taking part, as I say, and 2 riders representing each of those nations and riding as a pair in each of their heats. And these are the riders representing each of the countries. First of all, England, the holders, with Malcolm Simmons looking for his 4th successive victory in the event, and with Michael Lee, the former British champion, his partner. For Australia, Phil Crump, who was the world number 3 years ago, and John Titman, Australia's only finalist in the world individual last year. Denmark, the host nation, with Ole Olsen on his own track, the world individual champion, partnered this time by Hans Nielsen, who scored a maximum when England rode against Denmark some weeks ago on this track at Vojens. Finland with Ila Taroma, who took part in his first world final last year, and Kai Niemi, who rides for Eastbourne. New Zealand with 5 times world champion Ivan Major, and Larry Ross, the Wimbledon rider. Poland with Ed Jankarts, another Wimbledon rider, and veteran of many world championships, and the very experienced Zenon Plek, just out of the army. And the American team was to have been Bruce Pennell and Steve Gresham, but Gresham has not turned up, or not even sent a message for that matter. The Americans tried to replace him with Ronnie Preston, but he was stranded at Heathrow Airport, like so many others, and couldn't get a flight. Pennell was therefore allowed to ride with a Danish reserve whose points would not count.
England then, the defending champions of this World Pairs crown. In fact, they've won it for the past 3 seasons, and Malcolm Simmons there, the rider in red, just going out of your picture, in fact, has held on to this crown for all of those 3 years. There's one of the Finns who they'll meet in Heat 1. England then bidding to defend this crown. Malcolm Simmons had a different partner. Each year he has held this title, and there is his partner for today's meeting. That's Michael Lee, former British champion, 2nd in the British final back on Wednesday in Coventry. So England's hopes rest with Simmons and Michael Lee, 2 very tall lads. As we come into Heat 1 on the inside there in red, Malcolm Simmons from England. Next to him in white, Ila Taroma from Finland and Leicester. Grid 3 has the rider in blue, that's Michael Lee. And on the outside in yellow and black from Finland, Kai Niemi. Heat 1, England versus Finland. Remember, of course, 3 points for a win, 2 for a second, 1 for a third. Accumulative points for the pairs here. This is Heat 1. It's a clean break there, and it's England who go into the corner first, with Niemi trying the run around the outside, and Taroma doing a brave first corner, and they were all over the place on those first 2 corners. Lee and Simmons getting into a bit of a tangle, which allowed Ila Taroma to come through into the lead. 2nd place now is Lee, 3rd place is Simmons, and Lee really gives him a nudge over there out of the way into that bottom corner. Track conditions, of course, are inclined to be unpredictable as England now go 1-2. It rained very, very heavily overnight, and the track was very wet. It's dried out quite well. They've put a lot of top surface, but it's going to be tacky underneath. But this looks good for England in Heat 1 as Michael Lee and Simmons now pair up. This is what Team Speedway's about. They've got to keep together. They, remember, score accumulatively as they come around into the last lap, 300 metres around this Vojens track. And it's Niemi now battling after them in yellow and black for Finland. But there's the gap, and England really have made an impressive start. Around the last corner, it's going to be 5 points for England. 5 for England, 1 for Finland. And that's a very promising start for England defending this World Pairs crown. Fray here at Vojens in this 12th World Pairs Final. Heat 4. That's again a very even break, but Major on the inside one, and Lee rode a very brave first corner. Michael Lee leads it. 2nd place Simmons, and he was waiting for Simmons, and Major's dropped back to last. And the Lions are roaring. England 1 and 2, and they know each other's style. They're looking for each other. Remember, it's their accumulative points that count, and Michael Lee and Simmons riding perfectly together as a pair and leaving the Kiwis far back in their wake. Absolutely locked together. Lee on the inside, Simmons on the outside. Larry Ross is going after them, but he's got a long chase. Well, they are looking awfully sharp, and this is good news. There's a lot of English fans over here, and they are loving this. England, of course, not having much of a year internationally, sensationally eliminated from the World Team Cup. They were beaten on this track by Denmark a month ago. But they seem to have put that experience to good use. It's going to be 5 more points for England. Lee wins it. 2nd place Simmons, 3rd place Ross. So that's England on maximum points after 2 races. Well, there's Peter Adams there, the Coventry team manager, and Ole Olsen's personal and private manager saying something was obviously was meant to impress Olsen, is coming into heat 7. The Danes absolutely hot favourites here. Had a disappointing start. They shared their first race with Australia. Now they meet the dangerous Kiwis. There's the lineup on the inside. Ivan Major in red. Next to him, Ole Olsen in white. Grid 3 has Larry Ross in blue, and on the outside, Hans Nielsen. New Zealand versus Denmark. The Danes with 3 points. New Zealand only 1 to their credit. Both have only had 1 start. Heat number 7. 2 of the great figures in World Speedway, of course. Major on the inside, 5 times world champion. Olsen 3 times and reigning champion individually. Indeed, Olsen, of course, a protege of Ivan Major years ago. Heat 7. Once again, it is Major and Olsen, and Nielsen coming around the outside. Denmark 1-2. Major trying to find a gap up the inside, but the Danes really rode a copybook first 2 corners there, and they're in front, and the Vojens crowd are loving this. Olsen looking for Nielsen around the outside. Ivan Major making sure they don't go to sleep in 3rd place. Buzzing, trying to find a hole. But these boys must surely know their way around Vojens. It's their home track, but they have got one of the cagiest old campaigners in World Speedway right on their tail. Nielsen's only 19, Ole Olsen now 33, one of the veterans in this party. On their back wheel, Ivan Major, the oldest man in world-class Speedway. He's 39. Olsen will wait for Nielsen. He'll leave a gap up the outside. This is Team Speedway. They've ridden beautifully here today. They're going to collect 5 points. Well, I can hear what the crowd think about that. The Danes reckon to be invincible here. Had a, well, lackluster opening, but they got 5 points there, and they're happy about that. Heat 8 with England facing one of the great spoilers, Bruce Pennell there from America in Grid 2. He's won his 2 races, and of course the Lions, Malcolm Simmons on the inside, and Michael Lee unbeaten after their first 2 starts. The reserve on the outside doesn't really count. Jürgen Holm, Heat 8. And it's Simmons who gets away from the start, and coming around the outside it is Lee, and Pennell there not finding any grip at all around the line. So it's England again with Lee on the outside, Simmons on the inside, and now Bruce Pennell trying to get between them, getting tight. Well, he's a battler, this Pennell, and he's going to go by Simmons. Simmons going back under him hard. You can see the battle for 2nd place. Michael Lee looking to see where the action is, looking for Simmons. So this is something of a race, with Pennell now moving into 2nd place, splitting up the Englishman. There's Pennell going after Michael Lee up front now. Into the last lap, 4 laps, remember. 300 metres around this Vojens track, and Pennell is right on the back wheel of Michael Lee now. This is going to be the first points that the Lions have dropped, unless Simmons can make his big effort down the inside here, and he's just about going to sneak through. There he is. Lee was the winner. Malcolm Simmons left his effort a bit late, came driving round the line there. Pennell was out a little bit in some loose stuff, couldn't quite get his wheels back in line in time, so that's 5 more points for England, and they really have made a cracking start, now unbeaten after 3. Heat 11 on the inside, it's on the inside it's Ole Olsen from Denmark. Next to him we have Michael Lee in yellow. Grid 3 has Hans Nielsen from Denmark, and on the outside in white, Malcolm Simmons. Denmark versus England, the 1978 world champions. Denmark, of course, at World Team Cup level. Tremendous new rivalry in World Speedway between these nations. So Olsen on the inside, then Lee, then Nielsen. On the outside, Simmons. Heat 11. Oh, Michael Lee is so lucky. He very, very nearly broke the tapes there. Referee Tor Kittleson says, back in line, lads. And again, Lee is the impatient one. And they're away this time. And it's the Danes. Olsen leads it. Simmons will try the outside run. Here goes Malcolm Simmons around the outside. Terrible trouble there from Nielsen, but Olsen in front. Simmons is second. Michael Lee's at the back. And Olsen looks over and sees it's Simmons and will take him out there wide. My word, this is getting into a race. Simmons around the outside of Olsen, and he has gone by him around the outside, and Lee's moved into third place at the back. And the Lions really are rampant here at Vojens. Well, this is Malcolm Simmons going up into the lead now with Olsen hard after him, and Lee now has closed the gap on Olsen, and we really have had a race to remember here in Heat 11. Just one lap to go, and Malcolm Simmons, the England skipper, much maligned, has really ridden the race of his life here, and he's holding out Olsen. Just 2 more corners to go, and this one really might wrap it up for the English, because Simmons is going to win it, and that's a memorable win. Simmons wins it. Second place Olsen, third place Lee. Heat 11, the English pairing collect 4 points, and that might just clinch this title for them.
12 of them, this was the situation. England led with 19 points, Australia was second on 13, Denmark and Poland shared third place with 10, America were fifth with 7, and New Zealand and Finland were in joint sixth place with 5.
So England and Australia clash in heat number 15, coming up under starters' orders. And this again is an important one. On the inside, it's going to be Malcolm Simmons red, looking tremendous this afternoon. Next to him, Phil Crump in white for Australia. Grid 3 has Michael Lee from England in blue. And on the outside, it's John Titman, yellow. Old adversaries then, England versus Australia. Started riding against each other internationally back in 1930. Heat 15 with the English in front, but still looking for points. And it's Crump for Australia. Crump leads it, Titman going around the outside, Simmons down the inside, and this is an upset for England, but Simmons now will stretch and push and try and leave a hole for Michael Lee, although Titman's ridden a very brave corner there, and it's awfully, awfully tight. You could throw a handkerchief over all 4 as Michael Lee comes through into second place. Lee challenging hard, but now it's Australia 1-2, and here's an upset. Lee then pushing hard round the inside, going under Titman. He's through into second place. Simmons now trying to go through the same gap as Lee goes after Phil Crump, and this is a race to remember. Crump still leads, Lee in second place, Simmons is at the back, Titman is third, but now Michael Lee is going hard under Phil Crump, and he has come from last to first here, or has he? As Crump keeps going around the outside, Lee stretches away on his Czechoslovakian Jawa, and he really has ridden the most enthralling race here. Michael Lee is going to split them up. 3 to England, 3 to Australia. A really superb piece of speedway action with Michael Lee, the young man only 20 years old from Kings Lynn, coming through from 4th to first place, really to save England's bacon there in Heat 15. Heat number 16, and it really is getting quite fascinating here in Vojens this afternoon, because the Danes now have a chance to creep a bit nearer England. England's lead being looking a little tenuous now. They dropped some points there in Heat 15. Now the Danes can close the gap to 2 points if they take maximum points from the depleted Finns in Heat 16. The lineup: on the inside, Ole Olsen, red. Next to him in white, the young Danish reserve, Jens Nielsen, and he'll be meeting his younger brother, Hans Nielsen, in grid 3 in blue. And on the outside, Kai Niemi, the lone Finn, having sadly had partner Ila Taroma taken off to hospital with a broken leg, which effectively put the Finns out of the reckoning. But Denmark, hot anti-post favourites, have had to struggle, but now they're back in and must know they're in with a faint chance still of snatching this title. Heat 16. Olsen and Nielsen get away, and young Jens Nielsen almost coming to grief there on the bottom turn, as the home pairing of Olsen and Nielsen now seem to get the measure of this Vojens trek. They should know it inside out, riding side by side, and it's going to take an earthquake to stop these two now. Olsen, of course, Denmark's master sportsman, was born just down the road in Haderslev, has an average of 10.11 in British Speedway, and indeed has been going through a bit of a lean patch for him recently. He's a bit off colour. Hans Nielsen's 19 from Bralst in Denmark, has a higher average in fact in the British League than Olsen, 10.27, rides for Wolverhampton, reckoned by many to be the lad to follow in Olsen's considerable tyre prints to a world individual title. When they get in front, they really do look superb. Nielsen and Olsen together over the line, 5 points. England come back that much nearer as we approach the climax of this 1979 World Pairs.
6 points to Denmark.
Well, that's the scoreboard. 18 coming up, the one that England could clinch the title, the one which is so important to their chances, because they just need a first and a third, 4 points to put themselves in an unattainable and unassailable position. We have the Poles in here, and they're not going to give anything away because they're still in with a chance of a place in the frame as well. On the inside is Edward Jansarsch in red. Next to him, Michael Lee, yellow-black. Grid 3 has Zenon Plek in blue. On the outside, Malcolm Simmons, white. Heat 18, the crucial one for England's chances. That's an even break, and it looks like Poland there first, although Lee and Simmons are going around the outside of Edward Jansarsch, and Lee leads it. Lee and Jansarsch stretching. Down the back straight is Lee and Jansarsch. Lee on the outside. Jansarsch has come through on the inside, and Plek is into third place. So England really with a lot of work to do here in heat number 18. The Poles really have been super spoilers here, and now Jansarsch has Michael Lee, and Simmons must try and get up into third place. It's so important here as Lee goes very, very wide, almost leaves a gap for Plek, and I think Plek's going to go through. Tremendous speedway action here in heat 18, but it's going to leave it open for the Danes because Plek has come through into second place, and England, who at one stage seemed unassailable, really now in some trouble. The last lap, and Lee really must ride his heart out around these last two corners to hold on to second place. And it's so close on the line. Jansarsch wins it. It looked like Lee up into second place. Plek was third. 20 points accumulatively so far, and 5 points in this last race. Heat 21 could take the title to Denmark. The Danes, of course, hold the world individual title through this man, Ole Olsen, who seems to be composing himself there, relaxed for Heat 21. He is the world individual champion. Of course, they are the world team champions. They have the European under-21 champion. This is one title they don't hold. It would really complete a remarkable clean sweep for them if they could snatch this title in the last gasp. But they have the Poles to contend with, and indeed, the Poles are themselves in with a chance of winning this title because 5 points, maximum points from Poland, they have 19 so far, would put them up level with England. There is the score chart, the three nations to worry about, Denmark, England and Poland. The English have finished their rides, of course, 24 points. So if the Danes get first and second here, 5 points, they will snatch the title. If they get 4 points, that's a first and a third, we have a run-off between England and Denmark for the title. Poland, the opposition of the Danes in Heat 21 on 19 points, so a maximum 1-2 for them here could put them in with a run-off with England for the championship. So Heat 21 really with all kinds of possibilities. On the inside, Olsen, red. Next to him in white, Edward Jansarsch, Poland. Grid 3, Hans Nielsen, blue. On the outside, Zenon Plek, yellow. Heat 21 that's going to sort out all the answers for us. Away they go, and it's Jansarsch in between the two Danes. Olsen leads it going wide. Olsen leads it. Nielsen's come through on the inside. The Danes are 1 and 2, and now Jansarsch, who really made a bit of a hash of those first two corners, must really try to burst apart. He's got to try and split them up. Olsen leads it. Jansarsch going hard around the outside as Nielsen gets into some trouble in second place. So now the battle really is joined as now Jansarsch has gone by Nielsen. As Olsen looks for him, they're switching and dipping and team riding, and it's tremendous speedway. Just look at Olsen trying to slow up Jansarsch. He's done it. It's brilliant stuff. Again, Olsen is aware of Jansarsch. He's taken him right out wide. That is the corner that could sort it out for the Danes. Olsen has ridden absolutely magnificently. He has team ridden his partner home, although Jansarsch is not finished. Here he comes again. And it's so close on the line there, Jansarsch. Olsen has won it. Was Nielsen second, or did Jansarsch get up? It's a blanket finish, and the judge will have to sort that one out. Well, what a finish. We wait for the decision. Olsen certainly won it. The Danes have done it. Nielsen stayed in second place. They have snatched 5 points in really the most colossal finish. England, who seem to have this title in their pocket at the halfway stage, slipping in the second half, and the Danes have got a storybook finish that only Hans Christian Andersen could have created.
Yes, a remarkable finish there, and the Danes coming very strong in that final heat. But there was a controversy at Vojens in Denmark, because the man who finished third officially there, Jankarts the Pole, said that he was ahead of Nielsen. Let us have a look at this in slow motion again, and let me first identify the riders for you. In the lead clearly is Olsen. On the right of your picture, in second place, they say, is Nielsen, his teammate, and on the left, in the white helmet, is Jankarts. Now, if we just edge that slowly towards the finish, Olsen definitely wins, but Jankarts, the man on the left, says he finishes second, ahead of Nielsen. And if you look very closely, it's awfully difficult to tell, but he looks to me as if he actually did. Well, that was unofficial. I must say, if he had finished second, then of course the whole thing would have been squared, and Denmark and England would have had to ride off. But the official result is this: Denmark winning it by just 1 point ahead of England. In third place, Poland with 20 points. Australia were fourth with 19. The United States were fifth with 14. Sixth were New Zealand with 12. And in final place there, Finland with 7-point wins. But Jankarts, the man on the left, says he finishes second, ahead of Nielsen. And if you look very closely, it's awfully difficult to tell, but he looks to me as if he actually did.